Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story. Today I'm going to show you how to begin working on our beautiful long dimensional bead chain that also includes some geometric links. Okay, so I'm going to put this out here. This is the part we're going to start working on right now. And I like to have a visual reference up above, so I wanted to get far enough to show you this. You can see that we're going to be making these dimensional bead chain sections in little portions, okay? And you'll also see that it is going to get connected with the square, so I'll kind of show you that once we get started. So this is a real easy chain. I have the dimensional bead chain that is round, and I have the dimensional bead chain that is flat. And in this case, we're going to be using the flat version of that chain. If you've done this before, of course, this is a video, so you can always skip ahead and just watch the portions where we're connecting the chain pieces together. Okay, and you can see I just put a single bead onto a jump ring. I am going to put another bead onto a jump ring and close. Okay, so this is our very first row just to get us started. Okay, and what we're creating here is just simply a 2x2 chain. That's all this is. It's just where we situate the beads in each row that's going to make the difference. Okay, so I'm going to take my next jump ring. Now this time what I want to do is I want to pass through both of these, this first pair of jump rings. I want to pass through both of them. Oops. I'm going to pick up a bead and close the jump ring. Okay, and now I'm going to pick up another jump ring, and this one also has to pass through those first two jump rings from the first row. Okay, so really I am passing through the eye that's between these two beads, okay? And, you know, literally you don't have to think of it as the eye if you don't want to, because you're just simply passing through both of those jump rings from the previous row. So you can think about it any way that you prefer to. Okay, so now on this first row, there's nothing holding it in place right now. If there was, then I would be able to situate where my beads were sitting at this point. But we're not, so I'm just going to go ahead to the next row, and this is when you'll be able to start to see what's going to happen. But I'm going to point out the details to you right now. Okay, so you can see on this bottom row that I have the left-hand side jump ring sits to the back, and the right-hand jump ring sits to the front, and that this bead is on the left and this bead is on the right. Now, in the next row, the one that's kind of laying to the front, the bead will be on the left, and the jump ring that's sitting kind of back behind that one, the bead is on the right. And we're going to be alternating that pattern as we go through this weave. This may take you a little practice. If you haven't tried this, I do have a large version of this where we use size 6 seed beads. This is a designer project, so I'm hoping that you may have done this weave before with me. But if you haven't, you can just follow along. You see I just went through the eye that was between those, or I went through both of those jump rings that were from the previous row. I pick up a bead and close. And then I'm going to pick up another jump ring, pass through both those jump rings from the previous row again. Okay. Pick up a bead and close. Okay. And this is the type of weave that when you lay it in your hand, now that we have 3 rows, we know that this left-hand side jump ring is going to be sitting towards the back, but the bead will be on the left, and the right hand jump ring, the jump ring will be sitting forward towards us, okay, and the bead will be on the right. And as you hold this in your hand, you can feel it flatten out. If we were doing the round version, it has dimension and volume. So that is going to affect you as you work along. Okay, now I want to show you, I have a few rows of this. I want to show you that on this, I took one of my quadratile beads and I went ahead and attached it to this row that I was starting. So this one, the jump ring that's towards me, the beads on the left, jump ring away from me, beads on the right, and then that's reversed in the next row, and the next row, and the next row after that. Okay, so we're just gonna keep doing this until we get the length that we need for this particular project. I have broken it out where you're gonna do about 40 rows of this, so 40 pairs, and that's gonna be 80 jump rings that you need for each little section of this dimensional bead chain. And if you want to, you can always attach your squares when you start working on the chain, because then that way it's gonna hold that first row in place and you won't have to worry about it. And then, like I said, you can feel as you add each row of this chain, you can feel it flatten out. Okay, so you can see these are kind of bunched up together, and I'm going to push this one that's towards me, push the bead over to the left side, and you can kind of see the beads go up and down as we go along. So now I want to show you a little trick to this too. So where these beads are sitting right now, you can see that the row that I just added, that these beads are still movable, okay? So it's when I add this next ring to start the next row that these need to be locked into place where they're gonna sit, okay? So this one to the left, this one to the right. So as I pass through these previous jump rings, these two previous jump rings, okay, you can see that locked those beads in place. They can't go anywhere now. They can't switch sides anymore, okay? So as soon as I start that next row, that's when I need to make sure the row I had just added has its beads in the proper position. And if all of a sudden here, you know, my beads start sticking out and this doesn't feel flat to me anymore, that's when I know I might have a problem and I might have locked the beads in place on the wrong sides of the previous row. You usually know it right away. Okay, so just keep passing through the previous two. We do that twice. So again, this is just a 2x2 chain that we're working on. And the big difference in this chain is that we're adding beads to it. And now as I get ready to start my next row and pass this first jump ring to start another row, I make sure that the jump ring that's in back has the bead on the left, jump ring in back has the bead on the right, okay? Were these to be on the wrong side, I'll just kind of show you what happens. First of all, it's hard to do that, but see how all of a sudden that bead is coming at me? It's coming off the piece and it's not laying flat. So I'm just gonna simply pull this jump ring out. I'm gonna push the beads to their appropriate sides, and I'm gonna slide this jump ring in, okay? And you can see that it's flat again. So you can see as I look down, and even as I'm looking at the wrong side of it, the back side of it, that it's all laying flat for me, okay? And I just keep picking up a bead, closing. This is the first jump ring of this new row I'm adding. Then I add a second jump ring. Okay, make sure you go through both of the jump rings that are from the previous row and make sure you do not pass through this new jump ring that you just added. Pick up a seed bead and then close the jump ring, okay? So this is a fairly simple chain once you get the hang of it, but it does take a little bit of concentration to get it in the first place. Okay, so you can see that we have the square attached to it and that's holding it in place. I'm gonna do 40 rows of this, so 80 jump rings. And then I'm going to show you how to make this geometric portion of the chain using the quadratile beads and the lintel beads, and we're going to connect those to the ends and put them in between the sections of dimensional bead. And that's basically all there is to this. So just real briefly before we move into the next section where I'm going to show you how to make this geometric chain, I just wanted to stop and take a minute and show you how many of each component you're going to need in these little midsections. So you can see I have 1, 2, and then I'll have 3, because this connects to the dimensional chain part, 3 of the single squares. I have 2 of the double square sections or quadratile sections. Okay, and you're going to see I need 1, 2, 3, 4 of the lintel bead sections, all ready to go to connect this chain together. So you'll probably want to do this part last, once you have all your dimensional bead parts. But I just want to show you that I left my lentils open as I made these sections so that I could use the lentils, the lentil bead components with their jump rings to attach my geometric components together. So you can go ahead and close all of the pieces that belong with the quadratiles with the squares, and the lentil beads or the round sections are the ones that you can see. If you just leave these open, then you'll be able to go ahead and just start linking this portion of the chain together. In the next section, when I show you how to make these components and link this together, I'll also show you how to make this a chain on its own. Okay, and this is a really, this would be really neat looking on its own, or the way I've incorporated it along with the dimensional bead to make a really long, beautiful, geometric looking chain. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really fun little chain. It uses shaped beads, so we've got some beads that are square and have 4 holes. These are called quadratile beads. And then I also have beads that are round and they have a hole on either end. And these are lentil beads that have 2 holes. Okay, so I'm going to give you the information you need to be able to work with these. Now the color that I'm using in this particular project is the silver chrome color. So this is a fairly unstable, this actually will rub off over time. So I actually think it's good that we're using it in a really drapey chain, so it won't get a lot of rub to it, but just bear that in mind. These come in a lot of different colors, but in this color, I'm going to be using anodized aluminum jump rings, and these are not going to tarnish. They're going to stay super shiny like this. So these are a great thing to use along with these bright silver kind of chrome colored beads, because they're not going to tarnish either, and they're going to stay this nice white color, this white silver color, so you don't ever have to worry about it. Okay, so to load our jump rings onto these beads, you can see I just slipped through the hole. Now that one was really easy. I will warn you that occasionally jump rings, the wire kind of varies with from jump ring to jump ring, not very much, but it does, and you can you know, sometimes if it doesn't go through, you can just pick up another jump ring and try, and occasionally the holes are just too small. I did have one where I ended up breaking the bead. I tried a couple jump rings and they didn't work, and I ended up breaking the bead. Okay, so so just to show you, ones like this, okay, you just put a jump ring through every hole, okay, and then that creates a connector that we're going to be able to use in our chain, and you can see that one right here. Okay, now for the one, my next one, you can see I've linked 2 of them together, and I just found that when I was using these same jump rings, that if I wanted to, I could actually link them together. So this is a good thing to know in case you want to make a bracelet. So I think linking them together, you know, you might have to have some breaks in the action as you do it, but there is a chance that you can create an entire chain this way by just linking all these quadratile beads together. Okay, so this is another fun, it just creates more texture. That's what we're trying to do when we make these pretty chains is. And sometimes what I like to do is take the top of the jump ring and push it down through the hole. Sometimes that goes a little bit better. Okay, so you can see that these two jump rings that I just added create a little hinge section between the beads. Okay, so you can see it would be fairly easy to keep going with that, and that might be something I need to try. I don't have a whole lot of these beads right now, but now that I've started working with them, I'll probably get some more and have some more available. But right now, just this, I just have this one color. But I like them. And I will tell you that these also come in a round size, or I'm sorry, a round shape. So, you know, there's kind of a lentil that's got 4 holes in it. And I think those will probably work in a very similar way. You'll have to see whether it needs a 1/8 inch jump ring or a different size. Okay, so you see the section that's got 2 beads in a row, and you see where I did the little component with you know, just the jump rings on either side. So you can use these either way. And then let's talk about the lentil beads that I've got up here. So the lentil beads, I have a really pretty chain kit that is in a rainbow, or there's a choice of some other colors where I use these lentil beads with holes on either side. And you can find that kit at beadmeastory.com, of course. But this time, when I did that kit, I put either a jump ring or an O-ring on the outside of this lentil bead, and in this case I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put the jump ring through, and you can see that this is a little bit tight, but it is making its way through. Be extra careful that you don't have any burrs. Sometimes if I had a tiny burr, which I could remove, what I would do is feed in the other side of the jump ring just to make it go a little bit more smoothly. And I just want to mention this is a larger size jump ring that I'm using now. This is a 20 gauge 5/32. And pretty much universally I've had to use 20 gauge 5/32 when I do the lentils, because otherwise it's got too much of a curve to it and it's not going to pass through the hole. Okay, so this is what that's going to look like on one side, and then the other side. Now what I like to do is when I'm doing the lentils, you can see on this chain that the lentil is actually facing a different direction, and that's okay. I could have actually just make these, close the rings, and then connect, you know, connect all the pieces together with separate jump rings. But I really like the look of this when I just started connecting it. So once I've got a lentil ready, I probably shouldn't have closed either of these. I'm just connecting to the 2 jump rings that belong to that square. Okay, so I had the quadratile that was a single. I have the lentil. I'm going to reopen this jump ring, and then I added a double to it. Okay, so we're just linking these together. There's no nothing hard about this. It's just fun, and it just creates a really fun geometric pattern that's just absolutely going to be stunning. This is going to be a really interesting looking chain, but basically just because of the shape and the texture of it, not you know, not the color or anything else. And then, like I said, I think this is interesting having the lentil sit sideways because it doesn't really poke out too much, And I think when people see you wearing it, they'll see your necklace from different angles. So I still think that that circle will show through. But if you want to, like I said, we can just take our individual components, leave them separate, and then use jump rings to connect them together. So that's another way to do it. But I hope you think this is a really fun chain. Again, we're using quadratile beads with 20 gauge 1/8 inch jump rings, and we're using anodized aluminum purposely, again, because of the anodizing isn't going to tarnish, so this is all going to look pretty in silver for a long time. And then we're also using lentil beads with 2 holes, and when we use the lentil beads, we're using a 20 gauge 5/32 inch jump ring with that. Okay, so you can come up with all sorts of different combinations on your own. You can mix the colors, you can use colored jump rings, you can do all sorts of things with this. I just wanted to share the idea so you could start having some fun with it too. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much.